Democrats. At this point, look, I mean, who wins this, David?
Who wins this depends on what winning really means, and that's what we don't really know from the president's point of view. Is he really just trying to solidify that base that he continues to message to? A lot of presidents come and try to sort of grow their support, right? But through, at least their rhetoric, if the policies. The president shows no interest in that. He's been trying to hold the line with his conservative base. How do you win that? Is winning getting the wall? Is winning declaring a national emergency, letting that go to the courts, and saying you fought as hard as you could? It's not clear. The polls do show that most of the country, the majority of the country, holds president accountable for this shutdown much more than they do Democrats. Also true, though, Washington Post has a new poll out today saying that more Republicans support the idea of a border wall than they did a year ago, that it spiked 16% among the Republican Party, not just the conservatives, but 87% of Republicans now say they support a wall. 70% say strongly support. The president is viewing that as he is winning.
Interesting. So the confirmation hearing for the president's attorney general pick it begins this week. Republicans are insisting that William Barr will not hinder the Russia probe. What needs to happen for Democrats to favor him?
Right, and it might not matter for his confirmation in that he only needs the 50 votes, but it seems like the Democrats are saying that they got some assurances in private from him, in private conversations, that he would not interfere with this ongoing investigation. There's reports that investigation by Mueller could wrap up by February. There's been reports in the past that it was nearly completed, so we don't know for sure. But I think they're going to try to get on the record that same kind of solid promise that he will not interfere and stop the investigation. But there's more too. Some are saying, hey, we want a public assurance that he will recuse himself. Rod Rosenstein, who's been overseeing this, is probably going to leave, and that has alarmed some Democrats if and when William Barr takes over. And they also may want him to promise that the full report will go to Congress as well as potentially the public. And the president's lawyers, they've staffed up with many more lawyers of the president's personal legal team, the White House team, and they're making the case now that they're going to try to get much of the report maybe redacted. Based on executive privilege, that the president's private conversations with his aides should not be made public. So that's going to be also part of the battle. You probably will see that issue raised at this hearing.
So the president's going to my beloved Louisiana, going to New Orleans on Monday. He's attending the American Farm Bureau Federation's convention. I find it interesting, given the fact that some farmers have been pretty vocal, saying, listen, those tariffs are hurting us. What do you think's the reasoning behind going south?
Yeah, I think he wants to go and make his case directly to them that his approach to China and this battle on tariffs is ultimately a winner. They passed some emergency aid for farmers that will help them get through this time. But certainly there's been concern among some of the farming community that these tariffs are harmful to them. And I think the president is going to appeal directly. I think he'll also probably make an appeal about this shutdown fight and the border wall. And he'll be able to have a chance to sort of give a message directly to folks who had supported him. And it's interesting. The president has canceled some other events. He didn't go on vacation. He has canceled a trip to an economic summit in Switzerland already that was scheduled for later in the month, saying the shutdown, I can't leave Washington. But he may well. We have not heard that he's canceling this, so he may well go because he sees it as that important.
As a base, sort of, to talk to. Look, let's talk Syria real quick. The U.S. military announced this weekend it is starting to withdraw equipment from Syria. Do you have a time frame on when we could expect troops to start coming home?
We really don't know. I mean, of course, the president said he was wanted them back right away. There was this idea it would happen within 120 days. That was until his national security team got wind of this, which seemed to be maybe through the president's own tweets and statements rather than any kind of meetings ahead of time, which is, of course, troubling. Secretary of State Pompeo and National Security Advisor John Bolton, I think, had plans to stay in Syria longer with a strategy not just against the ISIS, but also to sort of help deal with this ongoing civil war and as a counter to what Iran is trying to do. And so they're concerned. They're trying to slow this down. I think folks in the Pentagon also believe need to do this responsibly. But the president keeps saying that he wants to do this. And so it seems like the military is starting to make the moves that they're going to comply with the president's orders.
But to be fair, David, lastly, to be fair, the president appears to be listening, right?
He does. He's gone back and forth, and this happens with this president. It's a bit troubling, but he does seem to have understood. I mean, James Mattis, the defense secretary, resigned essentially because he said he went to Trump, and Trump wasn't listening, weeks ago. So but now I think there is a sense that the president understands you have to do this responsibly if you're going to draw down, whether they'll leave any kind of, others like intelligence presence in Syria to help, coordinate sort of the strategy against the Islamic State. We'll see. But it does seem like the president president has kind of, I mean, it's not clear exactly how quickly he wants to see this done, but it does seem like he's trying to send a message to the folks who elected him that I believe we've made a lot of progress against the Islamic State. We don't necessarily need to be in Syria for other reasons, even though his cabinet seems to think otherwise.
David Nakamura, thank you.
Sure, anytime. Thanks.